All right, I'm live. Now, it's been a little bit of a snafu. I'm not really sure if I'm on Facebook or not because I added it at a last minute. So I'm going to have to double check here. Hold on, folks. It might be an issue today. This is what happens with technology. Now, the replay, I will plug it in to the Facebook group. So those of you will have it. So welcome everyone today. This is kind of the kickoff of my first Rethink with Veronica switch over to the Thrive for Excellence community. And it's really all focusing on Scrum Masters, helping all of you really get clear on what your Scrum Master identity is and what that really looks like. Now, today, I'm going to talk about why you need to focus on your Scrum Master identity and your personal market brand. As I mentioned on LinkedIn, there's over 1 million Scrum Masters. If you go in the Sales Navigator and LinkedIn, 1 million plus Scrum Masters out there. Now, that doesn't mean that it's hard for you to get a job, because here is a little secret. Everywhere I go, I hear the same thing. I hear it from companies. I hear it from other agile coaches. I hear it from recruiters. It's hard to get a quality Scrum Master. Now, I'm not going to say that every single person that's looking for a Scrum Master position knows how to actually find a good one. That's probably one of the main things they ask me all the time is, hey, Veronica, what do we need to have? But I'm going to back it up and we're going to talk about you first. We'll get to that in a minute. Your identity is all about you and what you truly want to do, what lights you up. Now, the thing about being a Scrum Master, I got a lot of people joining here. Hold on one second. I might have to pivot if this is not airing inside the group. Hold on, guys. Okay, it's airing. It's airing. Okay, cool. Now, here is one of the things that I want all of you to completely think about. Hold on here. This is where, okay. All right, shoo. So, I'm going to show you something. And this is so important for a lot of you that I've talked to over a couple of days. Some of you guys are job hunting right now. Now, my program doesn't necessarily help you get a job. It's more about staying relevant, working on your brand, no matter if you are in a full-time job or not. I am agnostic about that. What it is I take the whole package about who you are and really start working through what your beliefs are in and helping you prepare for that journey. Now, I started out as a Scrum Master many moons ago. I actually started out as a product owner, in truth. And what I have done through the years is created a laser target. And some of you I talked to said, you know what? I don't care. I want to be a Scrum Master. And you know what? I love that. I love that thinking. But we also need to be very strategic and plan. I didn't just wake up one day and say, poof, I want to be a Scrum Master. I had to lay it out. But what I learned here in the Scrum Master identity is why? Why do you want to be a Scrum Master? This is something that you really want to get real. Because here's the thing. I'm showing you right now empowerment. We talk about empowerment in corporations. You are at cause for your results. And the reason why I keep talking about knowing who you are as a Scrum Master and what that identity is because you're at cause to who you are attracting. When you go to these interviews or when you're an organization and you're wondering why you can't advance to be a team coach or why you're not getting that RTE role, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can look at all the reasons in the world to the right, but what's important is this. It's about you and how you identify yourself. Now, here's why I ended up from a product owner and Scrum Master, because I think this is really clear for all of you, is I love working with people. Remember, I used to be a high school science teacher. When I was in product, I liked the creation, I like ideation, love that stuff. But there was something that fell flat with me because I always see the potential and I love developing people. I just absolutely love it. That's why I actually got back into agile coaching and I'm about to work in an organization and help them with that. It's knowing what your purpose is, right? What is really drawing to you? And I'm going to be honest about the purpose thing. People, it's not just one purpose. Like you don't just write it down and say, okay, this is my purpose and that's the only thing I'm going to do for the rest of my life. You can actually have multiple purposes, by the way. But just, you want to answer the question right now, what's going on with you? And really understand your values and your core, you know, of if I were to have 2 weeks to live, what am I going to do? Right? And all those actions. And then you start realizing what your true core values are. Mine are friends, family, freedom, and adventure in no particular order. And everything I do and all the decisions I make are all around that. So now getting back to my Scrum Master identity, I loved unlocking the potential in people. What I really loved was also I was a natural change agent. And so I niched down and I knew exactly what kind of Scrum Master I was. And I always went out there and I was very target and related to how I presented myself. And so this is where the brand comes in. And so I asked some of you, what energizes you about being a Scrum Master? What do you like about it? I'd love to know. What do you love about being a Scrum Master? And think about it and think hard about that. Because when you show up, either talking to leaders or talking to other people in your company or talking on interviews, they see that passion. And here's another story. I probably sold myself into jobs that you probably wouldn't think that I would get. Now, here's the crazy thing that I've seen out there where they want X amount of experience. Well, let's dissect what a Scrum Master does. It's about people. It's about developing teams. It's about doing those aspects, right? So the only thing that they're going to ask you when it comes to experience is, what did you do in a Scrum or Agile context, right? But all the other aspects of a Scrum Master that really matter at the end of the day is what you want to start thinking about selling yourself in. Now, the other things, you might have to work in getting that experience, but you can be very creative about that. And so when I go back to what is your identity? Do you love working in transformations? Do you love working in more innovative teams? Are you highly technical and you can be really good at helping more like a DevOps Scrum team, right? It's really understanding and identifying yourself of what that means. I can't stress that so much. Get clear about that. Now I'm going to jump in with a Scrum guide here because it's a lot of fun to poke holes at these things. Hold on one second here. Now, some of you are, I see that you're on the community, the Rethink community. I ended up opening up the Facebook because here, I'm going to be honest. We adapt, right? And we admit to our failures and things that don't work right. My Thrive community is really based for my program, and that community that I built is really for students. And so it doesn't really work well in the capacity that I was trying to create. And I was up till midnight on Friday, and it was driving me crazy where I can't put events and doing stuff. So I know that I built this Thrive community on Kajabi, but I am moving back to Facebook. Those of you that might not like that, I'm sorry, but it is, I can't keep working till trying to build these things that don't make sense. So bear with me. We're going back to Facebook, but it'll be a lot easier because the events will be in there. I can schedule everything, and it will be more contained and less overhead for me. Now, getting back to the Scrum Guide, I'm going to open this up real quick because I'm running down my list, making sure that I keep tabs here. So I looked at the Scrum Guide, and I had a talk a while back about the top 5 skills that companies are going to need for unforeseen challenge. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because this is a really good thing to hone in on. Now, I looked at the Scrum Guide, and I'm going to be honest with all of you. I don't follow cookie cutter things. This is a guide, okay? It's only very Scrum centric, but Scrum Masters, in truth, you need to look at where companies are and the troubles that they're having right now. And they are trying to create high performing teams. And yes, the Scrum guideline talks about that, but it doesn't necessarily talk about all the intricacies that actually happen in a company and a business. And that's where I'm going with. So you have here that it coaches the team. So those of you that are not familiar what coaching looks like, there's a lot of opinions out there. I have taken professional coaching. I've taken agile type coaching. I'm even a life coach now. So there's a lot of coaching, but here's probably the best way to look at it. And I actually have a talk on my Game Changing Work channel with Roxana. Think of like a sports coach. This is the best way to look at it. You're going to need to have some knowledge about it. So this is why it's important to understand Scrum, understand the different frameworks. And I highly encourage you to understand the most popular scaling framework out there, which is SAFe, and any other type of scaling frameworks, because that is where organizations are going. They want Scrum Masters to know how to work in a scaled environment. And what I was getting to in my point here was that coaching, think of it as a sports team, and you need to know about football. You also need to know how to mentor them, and you also need to have the ability to coach them to be really great teams, right? And that's an individual level and also the whole team. Now, think of some sports coach too. Do you think they only stay in their bubble and they only talk to the team? Do you think they don't talk to the manager, the owner, all of these other people that are going to help the team to be successful? You're darn right they do. So as a Scrum Master, I don't really see that as much in that guide, but here's the thing. You have to be comfortable talking to leadership. You have to be comfortable standing your ground. You have to be comfortable being a change agent. All of these things are extremely important. That's not going to sit there in the Scrum Guide. But put yourself in the shoes of a manager. This is the best way to think about it. Because the person that you're looking at and you're in these interviews, what is their burning problem? What are they trying to solve? If you believe you can solve their problem, that's huge. And that is where getting to understand those problems that are out there, and then you can get yourself ready for that. Now, let's see what else I got on here. Removal impediments. Yeah, great. But eventually you're removing impediments for the team to progress, but inside the team, they should be learning how to be self-sustaining. So if you're going to start removing impediments, it's really about the things I just described, which is exterior. So any of you guys are in any scaling type of Scrum teams, like say in SAFe. Well, when we talk about impediments, when I work with Scrum Masters, I'm really encouraging them to look outward and really starting to manage those impediments that are happening to their team and partnering with that RTE and partnering and getting to know every single people leader that is one that's on their team, right? Having a really good relationship with them. Because when we talk about impediments, I'm talking about those kind of impediments. What we need in Scrum Masters today is to become team coaches, period. Companies can't afford to keep paying people like myself to stay there for a long time. We're just too damn expensive. And so Scrum Masters, we got to start getting them to rise up and start owning a lot of these responsibilities. And so my main thing whenever I go into an organization is I'm looking for the people that are going to replace me. I'm all about looking for that, because those are the people I know that are going to be sustainable. Those are the people that I also recommend, saying, hey, these are going to be your leaders. These are the people that you want to think about as elevating. Oh, you need internal coaches? These are the people that are on the fast track. You see where I'm going with this? It doesn't always need to be where you're looking for a job outside, interviewing, but I'm also talking about advancing your career within a company. I've handled all of those types of things. What else is on this lovely Scrum Master thing? Have you guys read this, the new Scrum Master guide? Now, it's funny. I don't know if you guys seen some some of these Facebook groups or the LinkedIn, and they're like having arguments about it. The Scrum Guide said this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You know, most companies aren't going to sit there and look at it like that. They really want to solve real problems. Remember that. Now, one of the things, establish empirical product planning in complex environment. That's interesting. Now, one of the things that when it comes to Scrum Masters, and I see this a lot, is the lack of focus. And this is kind of jumping into the preferred way, but let me circle back on those 5 top skills before I forget. Critical thinking, cognitive flexibility, being comfortable with ambiguity, resilience, being a self-starter. These are the things that companies are looking for. These are the things that I'm also teaching them to look for in Scrum Masters. Because, like I said, they are so important to help drive the future. And so this is for you, is thinking on your mindset is, where are you with your comfort and those beliefs in that? I don't know if anyone is in here. I'm trying to check my comments and stuff. Now I switched around, so I'll get a little bit better and I'll be directly on the Facebook Live so I can see the comments. Now, hopefully some of you are, if you're posting comments, drop me a hi, those of you that are watching right now, just so I know that this is working in Restream that I'm using and not directly in Facebook Live, because I know that I had the YouTube Live going. Okay, cool. Howdy. All right, awesome. I wasn't sure if it was working or not. So let's talk about those preferred ways. Now, I do have the ability to measure impact. It's called the Game Changing Index. But I still look for these inclinations naturally. Hello. Hi, Odell. That is, Scrum Masters need to have a high inclination to want to work with people. It's extremely important. And that's why I said you need to be a people person. Now, what do I mean by that? My highest preferred, because I measured it, is a game changer strategist. It's not necessarily the people part, but when I am working, and again, remember I talked about my Scrum Master identity. That's why I work with new teams, and I'm a change agent, and I really work in a very specialty, and that's how I sold myself, because I knew that's where my game changer kicked in and my peopleness kicked in. It's kind of like what I'm doing with you guys, right? I'm always pushing the edge and growing and trying to get people to change for the better, right? To better themselves. And that's where I excel. So as a Scrum Master, you at least want to enjoy working with people and wanting to get them to communicate, wanting them to collaborate. Now, if it gets to the point where it exhausts you so much that you don't like doing it, this is where I'm going to be honest. The Scrum Master role might be one that you might want to rethink, because this is extremely important. This is something that I say to all hiring managers. This is conversations I have with recruiters. The second thing of that preferred inclination is continuous improvement. Are you somebody that is a learner, that learner mindset? Somebody that has that natural learning mindset is really into continuous improvement because they always know there's something better. There's always growth. I was having a conversation with one of the agile consulting companies, and I said, you know what? One question for every agilist out there, even someone for like myself, right? Should always ask is, what have they done in the last 30 days to increase their learning? And he looked, and he was like, I used to ask that question. And he goes, you know what? I need to ask it again. I said, yeah. I said, because Agile is all about growth mindset and learning. And if they're not doing anything to learn, do you see the problem there? So that is one thing I can't stress, to be mindful of that. And again, if I'm teaching people and having conversations with recruiters and putting the bug in their ear, I'm preparing you guys. So just keep that in mind. Now, when I talk about my secret guide, I know I had something. Hold on one second here. Of course, I'm not giving the actual thing. Of course, I wouldn't do that. Let's see here. Hold on one second. Okay. Now, this is just something to think about. This isn't like the all be all. So I whipped it together for a conversation with all of you. And I've already mentioned a couple of these things about being a self-starter. You want to be comfortable working under pressure and getting others to focus, because if you're able to stay in that state, right? This is the state, what I call the stretch zone, and you're able to be relaxed and calm. You're going to be able to help other people along the way. This is really good practice for you. If you're flustered, then you're going to make everyone else around you flustered. So that is one of the key things that we can help with people, but it's on my list. So when I walk out, I always look and say, okay, how far can I get with these people while I'm in an engagement? So this is my list, guys. Good with time management, because you are helping the team be organized. And so if you're not good with time management, how are you going to help the rest of the team be good if they're not good already, right? You might be lucky. And being organized. One of the things as a Scrum Master, right, or even an Agile coach, because there really is no difference in my head, we want to model good behaviors and good actions for the people that we work with. And so we try to be more organized. Now, we all have our days where we can get discombobulated. Don't get me wrong about that. But it's more about flow. So when we talk about time management and organized, it has a direct correlation about flowing. Are we focusing on the most important things, right? So those two have a direct correlation with each other to make sure that we have our eye on the prize. So think again, my analogy of a sports coach. What are you doing to make sure you're scoring, right? Are you doing things that don't make a difference? Is there a bunch of people playing over here when the goal is over here? Now, I talked about being good with ambiguity that can help others along. And this is so important. When you're dealing a lot with change and the unknown, which I think we all got tested last year, which, by the way, me being a game changer, and I keep talking about game changer because this is something, again, that I can measure Scrum Masters to figure out where they are on their impact. And game changers tend to be a little bit more of a risk taker, is my point. But it doesn't mean that we can go in that zone and manage our emotions well. So that's a part where life coaching has helped me. I might take a risk, but I was living in the world of anxiety while I did it. So I'm just going to point that out. So being good with ambiguity and helping others along the way is huge when you're a Scrum Master. I think you guys can see that, right? And then loves working with people. I already talked about that. Continuous improvement, goal-oriented. Now, when we talk about your career, the mindset and believing of goals, getting the habit of these goals and you understand the value in it is going to help you with the team be more goal-centric as well. And so this is a learned behavior, by the way, and a mindset that you work towards. And this is something that I work towards because I cared about being successful. And so when I talk about advancing your career as a Scrum Master, you better believe it. I didn't get where I was today by the lack of being goal-oriented. I can tell you that right now, because I've had lots of setbacks. How many of you ever been on interviews and they just didn't click? They just didn't work. Well, I've had those too. But then you know what? I also realized they're probably jobs that I didn't want, because I have this natural way to protect myself, not to get jobs I didn't really want. But also just learning, right? Were you in the right state of mind? But when I always had the goal to do something, I picked myself up. Now, this just happened to me recently. So forget about Scrum Master. I'll tell you about my world. I was supposed to have a particular opportunity that I thought was going to set me straight with this program I was building and everything. And it just didn't end up working out that way. I was bummed. And I think I allowed myself probably about 2 hours to feel sorry for myself. I had to let it out. But I could have done a couple things. I could have just completely been in that mode, unproductive, and binged out on Netflix. But I was like, okay, I got to go find money. I got to find a job. And so I immediately started contacting people. Now, this is true story, because this just actually recently happened with me. And within 24 hours, I got a job. I'm not going to kid you, but that's because I've set myself up. So when I talk about knowing my networks, I know what I'm talking about. Now, can lead others and others will follow them. So being comfortable with speaking in public, you don't necessarily need to have to go and speak at conferences or whatever, but I'm just talking about when you're in your company or when you're in a large group of people, of being comfortable. So running down this list, I don't need to read every single one of them, but you get my point, where when we talk about top class Scrum Masters, we're looking at people that are potential really leaders that aren't necessarily in a management position. I don't know how to better put that, because you are a leader. You are. And so when you start coming up and you show that, that's where you're going to get those premium prices. And you have to believe that. And when you start believing it, you start acting on it. I think I had my last thing here is things that you guys can start today. Now, go beyond the practices of a Scrum Master. So in this group, which I'm going to the Facebook group now, it is going to be about shedding that and really get into that mindset and shifting about those beliefs that you have. And so the things that I share, you always think about, I want the tactical, but the tactical isn't going to matter if this isn't clear. And this is what I talk about a lot, is the belief aspect of these things. So the list that you even see here, do these make you nervous? Do these sound maybe I don't want to do? And some of these, you know, when I say treat LinkedIn as your best friend, what are you doing to network out there? Are you getting out there and meeting people in the Agile community? Because I can tell you what, the best way to find jobs is to network, to see what you can do. And stepping out and being brave and bold. You might end up doing things that you didn't really think you might do. And it's really getting into that mindset of success. You have to see it. If you're already in that mindset of, I don't think I can get it, I can't do it, I should, and using that type of language, you're already telling yourself and setting yourself up for failure. Because you're already telling the back of your head, your subconscious, that I'm not going to get it. It's hard, and that's what I teach, but it's the truth. When you close your eyes and you think about what that Scrum Master role is, what do you see? What do you hear? How does it feel? Can you envision that? Or when you step into an interview, do you play it out, all the questions that they might ask you? What does that look like? And even the ones that might trump you up. Now, I'll give you a nugget. Those of you that might be interviewing, always before you leave an interview, make sure you ask them if there's anything that you can do to clarify any concerns and doubts they have. Because the last thing you want to do is when they leave, you didn't get that opportunity. What if they did have a question about your experience or question about something that you didn't have, and they continue and everything? That was the one deciding fact that you could have won them over by going in with a great reason to say, you know what, that doesn't matter. And here's why. But you can't also do that unless you believe in that as well. So now getting back to being clear about your Scrum Master identity and personal market brand. Personal market brand is about your personal market value that you're going to focus on all the time. It's not, okay, I only do it when I need to find a job, or I only do it, when the company pays for it or sends me and there's something. We're all busy. I started at 5 a.m. today, and now I'm going to continue. When I get off on this live, I actually have a pair coaching that I have to do for something that I'm doing for my continuous improvement. Now, not everyone has lives. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to sit there and hustle. I made a choice to do it all in one day so I can have more time off another day. But that's the way I manage my time. My point is that figure that out with life balance. And that's what I do a lot. Sometimes when you ask yourself, what really matters to me and what am I doing? And then you start kind of putting aside the things that really don't matter. I teach that a lot even in companies when they're so busy and inundated. And this is a great thing a Scrum Master can do is for their team is start going through the list of things that they're doing that really don't matter. What are the most important things they need to do that day? Now, that's a tough conversation to have outside of your team, but I used to do that as a Scrum Master. I'm like, why are they working on this? What's the value in this? No, they need to be doing this. And sometimes, in all honesty, I had to convince the product owner to do something because they weren't necessarily helping with that. They might not have been comfortable. I mean, when I work with product owners, also with Scrum Masters are going to help elevate product owners to be good. So if you're not really sure what product owners do, that's also something that you're going to want to learn, because both of you should be leaders in truth. But what happens when you have a product owner that doesn't think and act like a leader? Who's going to help them? Scrum Master. See where I'm going with this? So there's a lot rides on the Scrum Master role because you really are that coach. And when you start practicing those things that team coaches do, that's going to elevate your career. So what I would love to find out is what are some of the things that in this community, when it comes to mindset, let me turn this off. And really figuring out when it comes to advancing your career, some of the troubles that you're having. Are you wanting some of you to become team coaches? Are some of you wanting to be RTEs or maybe manager of Scrum Masters? What are some of the things that you desire to have? What does that look like? Or if you're just looking for a Scrum Master job, what does your dream job look like? What do you want? And what are you willing to gain or lose to get there? Those are the questions that you have to ask. Now, if you don't have the experience as a Scrum Master, do you look for the jobs that might be quasi-project Scrum Master so that it allows you to get the experience and put it on your resume so then you can go get the better job? And maybe is that more of a contract versus a full-time, right? That's strategy. That's what I mean by what are you willing to gain or lose in order to get there? Now, I'll end with this on the story of what I did to get there. And this is extreme, but you don't have to do this anymore in this world of remote. You're very lucky right now. That's why I always say there's the land of possibilities. I picked up, my husband and I moved to Arizona because I got a Scrum Master job. And it was a contract job, not a full-time job, a contract job. And we picked up and moved there. And I'm going to tell you right now, in 2 months, I lost that job. They ended up getting a new manager. And I knew I didn't end up getting let go, but I knew it was coming. And so I already knew the minute that when they got a new manager of this Scrum team, it was a mobile team at the time. And I had a conversation, a meet and greet with him. And the words that came out of his mouth was, I don't really care about Agile. Okay, I'm a Scrum Master. I don't really care about Agile. Well, when I heard that, yes, bells were going off and everything. I was already looking for a job. And this is a true story. I applied for a couple of jobs and I applied for this Scrum Master position. It was a full-time position. And I remember interviewing with the individual and he was not expecting, I think he wanted like an entry-level Scrum Master. And I proceeded to talk to him and found out what were some of his issues. What was he trying to do? And through that conversation, I was able to convince him that he didn't need a newbie Scrum Master. He needed someone to be able to do what he needed. And what he was offering was not going to pay for that. I ended up getting what I wanted in that salary, by the way. Anything is possible. I truly believe that. And you might fall on your face a couple times, which I have, and I got even more stories to tell. But I also know when I believe in myself, I believe in what I do, I focus on continuous learning and knowing my stuff. So when I get in these conversations, I'm confident. I sell it. I sell me. You need to think about that. You also need to be, an approach is, do I want to work for you? And not in an arrogant way, but we tend to go into these interviews trying to sell ourselves before we also want to know that we actually are interested in working with them. So be mindful of that. It goes both ways. And just because you're passionate and interested, you also want it to look like you are asking questions and understanding. So you're understanding if you even want to be there. You don't want to look too desperate and hungry, right? That is true. Now, I'm going to leave you guys for today, and I will figure out some more entertaining things, but we're going to go over to the Facebook group and really start peeling the onion and getting real about what's going on out there, what we really need. And I'd love to hear from you guys, some of the things that you are trying to do out there. But again, this is not practices. This is more about elevating you in that trajectory of where you want to go. And so that's what I'm interested in. Where do you want to go? So once I get an idea of most of you that are joining me, what are your goals in this career? What do you truly want? And that will help me also figure that out. So add it in the Facebook group on there, and we're going to start working in there. I'm probably going to bring down the Thrive and then move everyone that joined over there. I don't have that many people that have joined. I actually have more people in the Facebook group. It's kind of strange. But I will see you next week, and I will post the topic, but I kind of want to hear what you guys want before I decide. So let me know as I gear up to probably create that here in the next couple of days. So if you can give it to me in about the next 24 hours, that will be awesome. Otherwise, I'll just make the cut for the next time. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.